Morning, Christina.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
We have all of these new things happening today. I don't know if everybody's noticed. We got some new things. We upgraded. So we've got a new camera. We've got new background. You see our branding. I've got some new
Hmm.
color in my hair.
Oh, cool.
Doing neon colors this time.
I
Green,
like that.
some
Nice.
yellow, some blue. Yeah, yeah, cool. So we were talking about what our topic was going to be for our LinkedIn Live today. In fact, we're also on YouTube Live and Facebook Live for the very first time too. I think
Yeah. So
we're
that's a
working
lot.
out. It's a lot. Next week we'll probably add yours, and
Oh,
then
cool.
we'll just be streaming everywhere.
That'll be cool. Yeah.
It'll
I
be
like that.
fantastic. Be fantastic. So our topic today, though, we wanted to talk about trust in the workplace. Not just in the workplace, but also in the dynamics between your supervisor, your team lead, um, your subordinates,
Yep.
and how that trust works. Also, I think trust in the company itself, in the brand. Do you
Yes.
trust they're going to be long lasting? Sometimes with startups, it's hard to know if they're going to be around, right? Because
Yeah.
they're just starting out. What about trust with a company, Leslie? Have you seen in your experience where maybe the trust was lacking? I have a story, by the way. The trust was lacking, and then maybe people started leaving because of it.
Yes. That is what happens.
Yeah.
Um, so I have a story about why I think it's important to talk about trust. I was giving a talk last week on professional ethics,
Okay.
and I realized that one of the main there's a lot of things that result from having good ethics, but one is uh, you're really lowering your risks uh, for a variety of reasons. But
Yeah.
another is that you are engendering trust. If you behave in an ethical way and people see that you behave in an
You're
ethical way,
modeling, right? You're modeling.
yes,
You're living your core values.
yes, and then they can trust you because they know that you will do what you say, you will behave in ways that are professionally ethical, and
Mhm.
you won't turn your back on them and just disrupt the company.
Well, people always want to know that your boss has your back.
Yes.
Right. So if I am behaving, if the company values, core values are X, Y, and Z, and I'm living up to them, but then I see my supervisor not, it really starts to bring down morale, right? Or
Yes.
sometimes you see favoritism
Hmm.
happen in ways, or bigotry, prejudice happen in certain
Hmm.
ways. And when it's from the top down, people will leave. They'll try to deal with it as best they can, but then they'll just leave. I spoke with a longtime friend of mine just yesterday. Amazing salesperson, right? And they're leaving. They're leaving their company. They said, I love the job. In fact, I love the people that I work with. Love my territory. I'm doing really well. People would probably call me crazy, but there's this manager and they just restructured our territories without asking. They assigned us 50% more work, which isn't what our job role or job description is. And suddenly they just restructured the company. And they've been telling their CEO for months and months and months. And now, because the CEO hasn't done anything, guess what? Mass exodus. It's happening right now.
Yeah.
They
And
lost
that
like
just
six of their top people recently.
that proves the point of people don't leave their jobs, they leave their managers. Or people don't
Mhm.
leave their companies, they leave their managers.
That's
She
right.
loves her company, she loves her coworkers, but her manager is just
Yeah.
intolerable, so she's leaving.
Yeah, and she's thriving, like she's doing well there. Um, but the leadership just isn't there. And once that trust is gone,
Yeah, yeah, it's really hard to earn it back. Yeah.
Have you seen it happen before where people have been able to earn trust back in the workplace, though?
Hmm. I don't think I have. Um, excuse me, I have a cough and needs iced tea.
Oh yeah, do it. It's probably not iced tea though. You're in the South. That's
It's
probably sweet
yeah,
tea. Let's be honest, it's sweet tea. Call it what everybody else calls it.
actually straight up tea, no
Oh,
sugar,
it is. Okay, okay, okay. It's so funny.
no alcoholic.
No. Long Island iced tea, right?
Yeah,
Um, well, that's, you know, I don't know. I'm trying to think back now, whenever I have had a difficult manager, a difficult supervisor, I'm trying to think, have they been able to regain my trust or regain the trust of my friend or the person that I was working with?
yeah.
Um, I don't think so. In fact,
I don't think so.
I have
I,
a mentee right now who's got a terrible boss, and every time I talk to her, she just goes, "Well, I'm enduring. He's slightly better, but really he hasn't changed much." And they've made it very clear they're not going to do anything. So my only option really is to leave or to tolerate him.
yeah, I have a little vignette of a story
Mm,
that is true, and it's so astoundingly ridiculous that I probably wouldn't believe it was true if I hadn't heard it firsthand.
mm,
So, my friend's boss had a PhD in
okay.
psychology of all things.
Hmm.
Because when you hear the story, you'll think, "Oh my God!" Um, and so let's just call him Doctor Box.
Uh-huh.
So he had started a company. He built this company. They were selling software products, and he was really focused and proud of the fact that he could get potential clients to return his calls.
Okay.
But what he hadn't noticed was the longer, bigger picture that
Uh-huh.
they weren't becoming customers. So
Oh.
here's what he would say. He would call them up and leave a message. Hi,
Uh-huh.
this is Dr. Box. I
Hmm.
have some important test results I'd like to talk to you about. Immediately, they call
Immediately,
him back. And then when they find out what the deal is, trust is forever wiped
forever.
off the table. You're never going to get trust after
Never.
you pulled a stunt like that. I
Right.
mean, that is a stunt.
Right.
And it's just,
That's using the power dynamic
and
in fully.
it's, I mean, wouldn't I mean you get a call like that and you
You
think, my
panic.
God, what's wrong?
Yeah.
And I don't remember a Dr. Box, but
Right.
maybe he's a radiologist or something.
Right. You're like, hurry, quick, let's find out
And
what
so
those
you
test
quickly call
results
him
are.
back and you're panicked, and
And
then
then
you
he's
find
trying to
out he's
sell you
just
something.
trying to sell you something.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is just so outrageous.
But
So
then he would brag that people called him back.
yes, and he was so proud of that. But what I'm thinking is he didn't really see what the big picture was. He didn't understand that
Right.
trust was the key
Right.
thing to get
That's
the
sales, not
sales,
numbers.
not getting people to call you back under some pretext.
Right.
So,
Right. He
anyway,
was
that
like, "But my numbers were good."
yeah. Yeah, I get really a lot of callbacks instantly. They call me instantly.
Instantly. Instantly. See, that's the person who's the social media expert, but they just count likes. Oh, you got some thumbs up. That's good. We're doing great. We got lots of thumbs. Yeah, but what did we sell?
Yeah.
Selling
So,
LinkedIn though.
yeah. And the other aspect of trust is that when your employees trust you,
Mm-hmm.
you can lead them, you can inspire them,
Ah,
you can lead them to do things that they thought might be impossible.
well, because they trust that you have their back. They
Yeah,
trust that even if they make a mistake, you're going to support them. You
right.
trust that as they're learning along the way, you're going to offer that mentorship or the resources that they need or whatever that is. And they trust that we're all moving toward the same common goal together, and not
Yeah.
somebody's over here working on their career and somebody's over here working on their other
Side
side
project.
project. Everybody's got a side hustle, right? So yeah, that trust is important. And again, I think we both kind of established that we've never had experience. I want to know if anybody else has had experience where you lost your boss's trust or your leader's trust, but then they were able to earn it back. I want to know what they did to earn your trust back, if
Yeah.
that's possible. I've never experienced it before.
I've never experienced that
Mm.
either. I mean, once that trust is gone,
Yeah.
it would take a really concerted effort on the part of the boss
Yes.
to restore trust.
And that's what my friend said yesterday was, I don't think he's really the type of person who would accept feedback or well. She said, we've tried. The CEO knows, and the CEO is not doing anything about it. 3 people already left. I'm leaving. They're gonna have another person leave. It's sad. It's sad because this
It
is
is,
the whole company. Their top earners are leaving. The
yeah.
people leave.
You know, there's another case that I'm familiar with of a manager who consistently treated his female engineering employees badly.
Yeah.
He harassed them not so much in a sexual way, but more in a demeaning way, like, "Oh, you
Sure.
wouldn't understand that." You know,
Yeah.
this is a technical issue, and all of the women would go to HR and say that they were really fed up with the way
Right.
he was treating them and he was demeaning them, and the HR people wanted to protect the company,
Of course.
so they would immediately sort of circle the wagons and try to make sure that the company wasn't at risk of being
That's right.
sued. Well, the end
That's
result was the company got sued lots of times and all the women left.
yeah.
So, but instead of saying, well, I noticed that, every woman who comes into the organization is complaining about,
Right.
this one guy, let's
Yeah.
call him Joe Schmo. And
Yeah.
Joe Schmo is getting all these complaints, but the company is always defending him because that's defending the company.
Right.
Um, and so they end up losing trust. The other people
Yes.
in the company then no longer trust HR,
Of course not.
and they don't trust Joe Schmo because he's created a hostile work environment.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous.
Mm.
And so that's an important part of what we do in our Friday leadership practicum is help people to build and maintain trust by having good conversations, good engaged conversations with others. And
We were talking about that with my kids recently about how when you can name your emotions and you can be clear on expressing them, then that's when communication happens. Good, clear communication happens. If
mhm,
you can't express yourself and communicate what you're feeling or communicate what needs to be done well with
mhm.
clarity, then there's so much ambiguity that happens. And this happened at the dinner table last night, and there was just this ambiguity going on. And finally, it was just, what are you trying to say? Like, say it, think about it, and then just say it with clarity. What are you really trying to say? And a lot of people, they grow up, I think, without parents encouraging them to express themselves, their feelings, and with clarity express what they want to say and communicate.
Mhm.
So, I think a part of that expression is sometimes we have to be vulnerable, and it's hard to be vulnerable if we have the information that HR has been receiving complaints, 5, 10, 15 complaints about. If your ego is such that you're like, oh, well, that's all their problem. It's a them problem. Then you're just going to go through life miserable. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not going to work out. In this case, the companies suffer though when they don't do anything about it.
Yeah.
But if we
Another,
can actually learn how to speak with other people, you can lift them up. Now, you always tell the example of the prima donna, the prima donna, right?
yeah, the
The
prima
person
donna. Oh, that's
who's
a great example. Yep.
cowboy coder, the person who's like with the ego.
Yeah.
Um, Eventually, though, that person, because they weren't in a management role, that person was able to kind
Oh,
of
yes. He was able to regain trust.
regain trust of his peers
Yes.
and regain his trust of his manager. But I think again we're talking here about the power dynamic where it's an employee who is able to
Mm-hmm.
rehabilitate their behavior,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to a manager.
Yeah.
It's
And
a power dynamic shift, I think.
there is that power dynamic. The other thing about leadership and trust is sometimes companies have to cancel projects. The marketplace
Yeah.
changes. And in order to not lose trust, it's really important to spend time talking to the employees who are affected
So they know
and
what's coming.
and talk to them about the market reasons, which coders don't always understand that.
Sure.
And I mean, I certainly didn't understand that when I was an entry level programmer.
Hmm.
I understood how to write cool algorithms, but I did not understand.
Have you worked on projects before where the company just scrapped it, where all the
Yes,
code,
and
all
it was
the
devastating. It's
yeah,
devastating. It's
yeah,
devastating because the team worked really hard and they were working nights and weekends trying to get this out. And then, boom, it gets canceled. And,
the
you know,
purposefulness is
yeah.
taken out of it.
And so that they don't trust the company to have their back. Why did that project get, in that case, those employees didn't lose their jobs.
Right.
They were just reassigned to a different
So
or
they're
upgraded.
disheartened. Like we worked weekends, we worked nights. I can't get that time back. And then you just
Right.
waste it anyway.
Yeah, you give up your family life, your personal time, you give up a lot. And then to have that thrown in the proverbial bit bucket is
Yeah.
just sad.
Yeah.
And it takes a long time to get people through that. That change is a grief process.
Mm,
And only when they begin to see the opportunities for themselves
right.
on the other side of that tunnel do they start
Right.
to come up. But
I feel like we talked about that in one of our workshops where we did our leadership practicum. Maybe it was in Austin. I Where
possibly,
remember somebody was talking about how um, they were having some issues with a schedule change or something, and then they were like, "Oh yeah, well, what about the project I'm working on?" And there was something about that. I thought, but being able to have those conversations in an improv safe setting where we practice it in a workshop is really helpful, because then when the scenario actually comes up in the workplace, you're not essentially like shell shocked, right? How do I
right.
respond? What do I say? What's important here?
Yeah.
What are
Then you
my
can say, oh, this is what we talked about with
talking points? Yeah.
Lucky and Leslie.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
And I remember they said something, go, what was it?
It's
That's when
funny.
you call us and say, help.
That's funny. It's funny. So we're
Yeah.
doing our workshop at the end of this month. We'll be in Colorado
Yep.
at the very last day of the
Early
month.
October.
Yeah,
Hmm.
October 1st, 2nd, 3rd, I think the
Something like
conference
that.
dates maybe. And we'll be talking about this kind of stuff: leadership conversations, trust in the workplace, how to speak with your manager, how to speak with your employees for changes where they're difficult conversations, like maybe you're closing down their project, or you have to change their schedule, or the scope is changing, things like that.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
we practice those kinds of conversations using improv in our workshop. We have a lot of fun.
Lots of fun. Everybody spends a lot of time laughing
That's
and
right.
learning at the same time. So that's the best way. You're
Yeah.
doing it. You're not just hearing from us. You're actually practicing.
Yeah, well,
And
when you do that, you create the neural pathways. And so that way, when you're ready to have the conversation, those neural pathways are there and they fire up and they're like, "Hey, I know what to do. Let's stay calm. Let's stay calm."
let's stay on this pathway.
That's fun. And of course, we're always doing our LinkedIn Lives Wednesdays at 7 a.m. And we
Pacific,
do
7 a.m.
all
Pacific.
Pacific and 9 Central. That's right, in
Mhm.
Austin. And then we do our online practicum the second Friday of every single
Yeah,
month.
so that's
And
coming
that's
up
10 Pacific and noon Central.
noon, Central,
That'll be
1
September
Eastern.
13th.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Fun,
Mhm.
fun, fun. I
Yeah.
always enjoy those, and I think all the participants learn and laugh at the same time,
Well,
as I
it's so
said.
good because they're different people every time.
Yeah, right.
So it shifts, like even when the information and the format are the same, because we have different people and their opinions and their ideas, it's always new. So it's great.
Yeah. It's also a way of really building trust with your team. If you are having these kinds of conversations in an open way, where
Hmm.
you're listening to them and being creative when you
Right.
understand what their ideas are, so you can listen and then say take what their interests are and what your interests are, and do the Venn diagram merge and
Yes.
find a really cool creative way to everybody, so that everybody gets something that
Yeah.
they need. And it's such a relief to
Well, when you
someone
can
who's in the,
compromise like that and come
yeah,
together in a collaborative way after
yes,
such a restriction or a block, because when you come up against a hard block like that, it's hard to move past it emotionally. It really consumes you, right? Like if you're spending 50, 60 hours a week at work and it's uncomfortable and stressful, like that's 50, 60 hours of your life every week that is just stress and misery. So
yeah.
if you can work out a collaborative way to figure out how to have the best outcome for everybody, then that's
Hmm.
a really empowering place to be. And once you learn those skills, you have them. That's just how you do it from then on,
Right.
So
It's
it's
like
very
learning to tie
empowering.
your shoes. You
That's right.
practice, practice, practice when you're a kid,
Yep.
and once you've got it for the rest of your life.
Yeah, you don't
You-
even think about it.
yeah, you don't have to think about it. And same with these leadership practices. Once
Hmm.
you practice them, you've got it for the rest of your life, and it works. So this is cool. I really love to see the results from so many of the people who have been through the program
Oh
and
yes.
really come out so much happier and
Mhm.
elevate their careers. And that's great. It's just great
Yeah.
to see.
Yeah.
I
Well,
see we have a
wonderful.
new participant in the room,
Oh,
Mr.
do we?
Kitty, the kitty.
Oh, yeah, yeah, kidding. Yeah, 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 I know. I always say my boss. My boss is coming. Hold on, my producer has some notes for me. Like I have 3 cats. There's just no way around it. They always by me. So
And they're so cute.
they're always like, "Hey, how's it going?" Just make an appearance and then off they go.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's funny. All right. Well, awesome. So I guess I will see you next Wednesday at
Next
7
Wednesday. Yeah.
Pacific, 9 Central, right here. And then next Friday, of course, we have our leadership practicum. So if anybody wants to get tickets for that, they're just $27. And you can go to luckyandleslie.com.
See
Awesome.
you then.
Cool. Bye, Leslie.
Bye bye.